Welcome to Scary Stories, where we bring you spine-chilling tales of horror and the supernatural. In this episode, we'll be sharing a story of two intrepid detectives, Nick and Audrey Spitz, who stumbled upon a case that would test their skills and their courage to the limit. Nick and Audrey had planned to start their own private detective agency, but their plans were put on hold when they received an unexpected invitation to a wedding on a remote island. Little did they know that this invitation would lead them on a terrifying journey into the world of the paranormal. Upon arriving at the island, they discovered that the groom had vanished, and even the bride was suspected of foul play. But Nick and Audrey were not ones to back down from a challenge. They plunged headlong into the mystery, and what they found would shake them to their very core. As they delved deeper into the case, they found themselves facing supernatural forces that seemed determined to drive them away. But with their skills and determination, they managed to solve the mystery and bring justice to the island. But their adventure didn't end there. As they continued to solve cases and unravel mysteries, Nick and Audrey became known as experts in the supernatural and the paranormal. And when they were invited to join the Scary Stories team, they knew they had found their calling. Join us as we follow Nick and Audrey on their terrifying journey into the unknown, and discover the dark secrets that lurk within the haunted houses and ghostly mansions of the world. As Nick and Audrey began investigating the disappearance of the groom, they soon discovered that things were not as they seemed on the island. The locals were tight-lipped and seemed to be hiding something. Strange noises could be heard coming from the dense jungle, and the old mansion where the wedding was held was filled with eerie portraits and mysterious artifacts. As they dug deeper, Nick and Audrey found themselves drawn into a dark and sinister web of lies and deceit. They soon realized that the island was home to a group of powerful and ancient beings who were intent on sacrificing the groom to gain immortality. As the night of the full moon approached, Nick and Audrey knew they had to act fast to save the groom and stop the dark ritual. With time running out, they raced against the clock, fighting against supernatural forces that threatened to consume them. But just when they thought they had won, they discovered the true identity of the groom, and their world was turned upside down. They were faced with an impossible choice, one that would determine the fate of not just the groom but of the entire island. Will Nick and Audrey be able to overcome the powerful and ancient beings that hold the fate of the island in their hands? Or will they become just another chapter in the island's dark and bloody history? Only time will tell. With their options dwindling, Nick and Audrey knew they had to act fast. They consulted their notes and discussed their findings, trying to come up with a plan to stop the dark ritual and save the groom. As they wandered through the mansion, they found a hidden passage that led them to a secret chamber. In the center of the room stood an altar, and on it lay the groom, bound and unconscious. Surrounding the altar were the ancient beings, dressed in ceremonial robes and chanting in an ancient language. Nick and Audrey knew they had to act fast, but they were vastly outnumbered and outmatched. As they stepped forward to intervene, the beings turned their gaze towards them, and Nick and Audrey felt a chill run down their spines. Suddenly, the ground began to shake, and the walls of the chamber started to crumble. It seemed that the ancient beings had underestimated the power of their dark ritual, and now the entire island was in danger of collapsing in on itself. Nick and Audrey quickly untied the groom and dragged him out of the chamber. Together, they ran towards the nearest boat, dodging falling debris and battling the elements. Just as they reached the shore, the entire island exploded in a ball of fire and ash. As they sailed away, Nick and Audrey watched in horror as the island disappeared beneath the waves. They knew that they had narrowly escaped with their lives, and they felt grateful for their quick thinking and bravery. As they sailed into the distance, Nick and Audrey knew that they had just experienced a truly terrifying and life-changing adventure. They also knew that they had proven themselves as capable and courageous detectives, and that their future cases would be even more exciting and dangerous. Weeks passed, and Nick and Audrey had finally returned home. They had closed the case of the missing groom, and their reputation as skilled detectives began to spread. One day, as they were settling into their new office, they received a phone call. The voice on the other end of the line was hushed and trembling, and the caller seemed to be in a state of panic. "Help me," the voice said. "I think my house is haunted." Nick and Audrey exchanged a look, and they knew that this was just the beginning of their new adventures. They accepted the case and set off to investigate the haunted house. As they arrived, they felt a sense of unease settle over them. The house was old and decrepit, with overgrown vines crawling up the walls and broken windows creaking in the wind. But despite its dilapidated appearance, the house had an eerie beauty to it, and Nick and Audrey couldn't help but feel drawn to it. As they stepped inside, they felt a chill run down their spines. The air was thick with a musty scent, and strange noises echoed through the halls. The furniture was draped in cobwebs, and the windows were boarded up, shutting out the light. Nick and Audrey began to explore the house, taking note of the strange occurrences and jotting down their observations. They soon discovered that the house was home to a dark and troubled history, and that the ghosts of its former inhabitants still lingered within its walls. As they delved deeper into the mystery, Nick and Audrey found themselves facing a formidable enemy. They battled against supernatural forces that seemed intent on driving them out, and they struggled to uncover the truth behind the haunting. But with their determination and expertise, Nick and Audrey managed to unravel the dark secrets of the haunted house. They banished the ghosts, cleared the house of its lingering spirits, and brought peace to the restless souls who had once called it home. As they stepped outside into the sunlight, Nick and Audrey breathed a sigh of relief. They had faced their fears and emerged victorious, and they knew that they were destined for even greater adventures in the future. As Nick and Audrey continued to solve cases and unravel mysteries, their reputation as private detectives grew. They became known as experts in the supernatural and the paranormal, and people began seeking out their help in cases that no one else could solve. One day, as they were finishing up a particularly chilling case, they received an invitation. It was from a popular YouTube channel called Scary Stories, and they were looking for talented storytellers to join their team. Nick and Audrey were intrigued. They had always enjoyed sharing their adventures with others, and they knew that their experiences would make for great content. They accepted the invitation and joined the Scary Stories team. As they began to create content for the channel, they found that they had a natural talent for storytelling. Their stories were engaging and suspenseful, and their experiences added a layer of authenticity that viewers couldn't resist. Soon, the Scary Stories channel became one of the most popular on YouTube. Nick and Audrey had become beloved figures in the world of horror and the supernatural, and people around the world tuned in to hear their tales. As they looked back on their journey, Nick and Audrey felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. They had faced their fears, solved countless cases, and entertained millions of viewers with their stories. And they knew that their adventure was far from over. For Nick and Audrey, the world was full of mysteries and the unknown, and they were eager to explore it all. As long as there were cases to solve and stories to tell, they would continue their work as private detectives and storytellers, always ready for the next adventure.